What if I told you one of the most successful revolutions in history wasn't fought with guns, bombs, or armies? What if the most powerful weapon was something invisible, something silent? In a world dominated by violence, one man dared to challenge an empire, with nothing but truth, courage, and the force of nonviolence. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and his revolution changed the course of history forever. This is the story of how a simple idea became an unstoppable force. When you hear the word revolution, what comes to mind? Battles, wars, the sound of guns? Most revolutions in history fit this mold. But there was one that defied all expectations, an uprising that didn't rely on force or violence. This was Mahatma Gandhi's revolution. Born from the desire for justice and freedom, Gandhi's unique approach shook the very foundations of the British Empire and became a global beacon of hope. Today we explore the life, struggles, and triumphs of this extraordinary man who transformed nonviolence into a powerful weapon. Gandhi's early life and influences. Mohandas Karamchand. Gandhi was born on October 2, 1869, in Porbandar, India. Raised in a deeply religious household, he grew up learning values of truth, compassion, and most importantly, non-violence, principles that would later define his life. Gandhi's early influences came from his mother's devout Jain beliefs, which promoted strict non-harm to all living beings, a core foundation of his later philosophies. At the age of 19, Gandhi traveled to London to study law. In the heart of the British Empire, he encountered new ideas: feminism, vegetarianism, and most significantly, the works of Leo Tolstoy and Henry David Thoreau. These thinkers emphasized civil disobedience and moral responsibility, planting the seeds for what would later become Gandhi's revolutionary concept of Satyagraha, or truth force. Gandhi in South Africa. It was in South Africa, however, where Gandhi's ideas would be put to the test. A now famous incident on a train became a turning point in his life. Thrown off the train for refusing to move to a third-class compartment, Gandhi realized he had to fight back, not with fists, but with a stronger force: moral courage. Over the next 2 based on nonviolent resistance, called for truth, discipline, and self-sacrifice. He led hunger strikes, protests, and boycotts, creating a new form of resistance that became the foundation of his future struggles in India. Gandhi's return to India. After achieving significant success in South Africa, Gandhi returned to India in 1915 as a national hero. But the India he returned to was suffering under British colonial rule. The British imposed harsh taxes, exploited resources, and ruled through an oppressive bureaucracy. Gandhi immersed himself in understanding the plight of the Indian people, traveling the country, meeting farmers, workers, and peasants. Instead of calling for a violent uprising, Gandhi launched campaigns that empowered ordinary people. He taught them how to use their own tools for resistance, starting with the boycott of British goods and the promotion of khadi, homespun cloth. To Gandhi, the spinning wheel symbolized self-reliance, a small act of defiance against colonial rule, and the non-cooperation movement. The year 1920 marked the beginning of Gandhi's first major national movement, the non-cooperation movement. He urged Indians to withdraw their support from British institutions, schools, courts, and government offices. It was a bold strategy that aimed to cripple the British administrative machine by denying it the cooperation of the Indian people. During this time, Gandhi's leadership transformed Indian nationalism into a mass movement. His message was clear: non-violence was not a tool of the weak, but the weapon of the morally strong. People from all walks of life, peasants, merchants, students, and workers, joined the cause. For the first time, India had a unified voice against British rule. The Salt March. Perhaps the most iconic act of civil disobedience in Gandhi's life was the Salt March of 1930. The British had imposed a law that made it illegal for Indians to collect or sell salt, forcing them to buy expensive, heavily taxed salt from British authorities. To Gandhi, salt represented a fundamental human need, and the tax on it became a symbol of British exploitation. In a powerful statement of defiance, Gandhi led a 240-mile march to the Arabian Sea. After weeks of walking, he reached the shores and, in front of thousands of followers, bent down to collect a handful of salt. This seemingly small act ignited a nationwide protest. Millions of Indians followed his example, defying the British salt laws, resulting in tens of thousands being arrested. Yet the British government could not ignore the movement. The Salt March became a defining moment in the Indian struggle for independence. Challenges and setbacks. Despite the success of his movements, Gandhi's path to freedom wasn't without setbacks. Throughout his life, Gandhi was imprisoned numerous times. British authorities saw him as a threat to their rule, and his influence over the masses was undeniable. However, each time Gandhi was jailed, the movement for independence only grew stronger. His imprisonment became a rallying cry for millions of Indians who saw in Gandhi a symbol of hope and resilience. Gandhi also faced criticism within India itself. Some nationalists believed that nonviolence was too slow a path to independence. Others, including members of the Congress Party, were frustrated by Gandhi's insistence on nonviolence at all costs, especially during times of extreme British oppression. Nonetheless, Gandhi stood firm, convinced that violence could never lead to true freedom. The Quit India movement. By 1942, with World War II ravaging the globe, Gandhi launched his final mass campaign, the Quit India movement. This movement called for immediate British withdrawal from India. His message was direct: do or die. For Gandhi, the time for compromise was over. The British reacted swiftly and brutally. Leaders of the Indian National Congress were arrested, including Gandhi. Violent clashes erupted across India as frustration and desperation grew among the people. Although the Quit India movement faced violent suppression, it marked the beginning of the end of British rule. The world was watching, and it became clear that Britain could no longer hold India by force. Independence and partition. On August 15, 1947, India finally won its independence. But the joy of freedom was marred by tragedy. The subcontinent was divided into two nations, India and Pakistan, leading to widespread violence between Hindus and Muslims. The partition displaced millions and left deep scars on both sides. Gandhi, deeply saddened by the bloodshed, dedicated his final years to promoting peace and unity between India's religious communities. He embarked on hunger strikes to stop the communal violence and appealed to both Hindus and Muslims to embrace tolerance. Gandhi's assassination and legacy. On January 30, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist who opposed his conciliatory approach to Muslims. His death shocked the world, but his legacy lives on. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence not only helped India gain independence, but also inspired countless movements worldwide, from the civil rights movement in the United States, led by Martin Luther King Jr., to Nelson Mandela's fight against apartheid in South Africa. Gandhi's message is timeless. He proved that the strength of a people lies not in their ability to fight, but in their capacity to love, to resist injustice peacefully, and to remain steadfast in the truth. His silent revolution continues to echo through history, reminding us that real change begins from within. Gandhi's life and his revolution showed the world that nonviolence is not passive, nor is it weak. It requires immense courage, discipline, and moral clarity. In a world still grappling with conflict and division, Gandhi's legacy serves as a beacon of hope, a reminder that peaceful resistance can triumph over oppression.